Okay, let's dive right into this. Today we're doing something really cool. We are deconstructing the exact, highly optimized blueprint used to generate world-class personal finance content. Now, we aren't just looking at a few random tips here. We're looking at the literal source code used to architect education that captivates millions of people. If you've ever wondered why certain explainers keep you completely glued to your screen while others just kind of put you to sleep, well, the answer lies in the structural blueprint we're about to unpack.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 1. The blueprint for financial education. 2. Hook and introduction elements. 3. The core script requirements. 4. Driving engagement and retention. And 5. Essential disclaimers and compliance. And we'll wrap up with 6. Closing and call to action.
First up, let's look at the blueprint for financial education.
Right out of the gate, this blueprint dictates a highly specific SEO-optimized topic for a personal finance and investing channel. The topic? 10 money habits that keep you poor. Notice how insanely targeted that is. It doesn't just say, how to save money. Instead, it leverages a powerful psychological principle called loss aversion. Basically, people are inherently way more motivated to avoid losing money or staying poor than they are by some vague promise of getting rich. This title is literally engineered to create an immediate sense of urgency. When you see a title like that, your brain instantly asks, wait, do I have any of these habits? It's honestly a masterclass in framing an educational topic to maximize those click-through rates.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the strict time constraint the blueprint mandates. Exactly 7 to 8 minutes. In the world of digital education, managing your audience's retention curve is absolutely everything, and duration plays a massive role there. The blueprint doesn't leave this up to chance. So why 7 to 8 minutes? Because it hits a psychological sweet spot. It's long enough to provide genuine, actionable value and establish your authority, but short enough that it doesn't feel like a massive chore for a beginner trying to learn personal finance on their lunch break. It demands total efficiency from the writer. There is absolutely zero room for fluff.
And that time constraint translates directly into a rigid production metric. To reliably hit that 7 to 8 minute mark, the blueprint requires a strict word count bracket, specifically 1,200 to 1,500 words. If you do the math, the average speaking speed is roughly 150 words per minute. So a 1,500-word script, read clearly and conversationally, lands perfectly in that target zone. It really goes to show that effective digital explainers aren't just written, they're mathematically calculated to pace perfectly with the human attention span.
Moving right along, let's get into the hook and introduction elements.
This brilliantly illustrates the exact two-step sequence required to immediately grab a viewer's attention and stop early drop-off in its tracks. Step 1 is a powerful 20 to 30-second hook. Why just 20 to 30 seconds? Because the algorithm data consistently shows that if you don't convince the viewer of the content's value in the first half minute, they are gone. They'll just click away. This hook literally has to jolt the viewer awake. Then, it seamlessly transitions into Step 2, a beginner-friendly introduction. Once you have their attention, you've got to make them feel welcome. You cannot intimidate them with complex financial jargon right off the bat. You invite them in, validate their desire to learn, and promise them clear, actionable answers.
Okay, let's move on to the meat of the content, the core script requirements.
The script can't just be some philosophical lecture, it demands real, actionable structure. First, it requires 10 distinct, harmful wealth-blocking habits. But it doesn't stop there. For every single habit, the blueprint mandates a real-life example. This is absolutely crucial for adult learning. We need to see how a concept applies in the real world to actually grasp it. Then, immediately following that example, the script has to provide practical solutions that viewers can start using today. It pairs the negative habit directly with a positive, immediate action. Toss in some smart saving tips and common financial mistakes to avoid, and you've got a heavily structured, rapid-fire educational journey that just constantly delivers value point after point.
Next up, Section 4, Driving Engagement and Retention.
There's this really fascinating tension in digital education. On one side, you're dealing with highly complex finance topics, things like economics, compound interest, market volatility. But on the other side, the blueprint strictly demands simple English, suitable for beginners, and specifically optimized for an AI voiceover. This means no convoluted sentences, no rambling paragraphs, and zero ambiguous phrasing. The writing has to be punchy, direct, and universally understandable. It essentially forces the scriptwriter to distill the most complex financial theories into language so crystal clear that a synthetic voice can read it with natural pacing and a beginner can absorb it without a second thought. Honestly, that's true mastery of a subject right there.
Let's see how this builds into a complete audio-visual experience. The script isn't just words on a page, it's a blueprint for the entire final product.
It mandates curiosity hooks scattered throughout the content, constantly teasing the next point so viewers don't click away. It demands smooth transitions, and crucially, it requires the writer to actively suggest visual aids, B-roll, stock footage, charts, animations, and on-screen text. The blueprint recognizes that focused learners need that visual reinforcement. When you're talking about budgeting, the viewer needs to see a chart. When you introduce a key concept, it needs to be anchored by text on the screen. It's a multimodal approach to learning, engineered specifically for maximum retention.
All right, Section 5, Essential Disclaimers and Compliance.
This quote directly from the source material is absolute. It is completely non-negotiable. Do not promise guaranteed investment returns. Look, in the world of finance, promising guarantees isn't just bad advice. It is a massive legal liability. This blueprint forces the scriptwriter to operate with total integrity. It ensures the content stays grounded in reality and sets proper expectations for the learner. The very second an educator promises a guaranteed shortcut to wealth, they lose all credibility. So this rule is there to protect both the creator and the audience.
Building right on that, the blueprint mandates a clear definition of the content's purpose, educational purposes only. The script has to explicitly state that investing involves risk. And those real-life examples we talked about earlier, the script must clarify that they are just examples, not guaranteed blueprints for identical results. This transparency is absolutely key to building trust with a learning audience. It's basically saying, hey, I'm here to give you the tools and the knowledge, but you're the one who has to navigate the actual risks.
And finally, let's wrap up with the closing and call to action.
An educational experience like this can't just fade to black at the end. First, you need a strong motivational conclusion. After spending 8 minutes telling viewers about the habits keeping them poor, you have to leave them feeling empowered to make a change, not defeated. But then comes the highly calculated multi-part call to action, reminding them to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The blueprint treats the end of the explainer as a starting point for community engagement. It signals the algorithm and successfully converts a passive viewer into an active participant in the creator's ecosystem.
So, we've unpacked the exact parameters, the psychological hooks, the visual cues, and the strict compliance rules of this entire finance script blueprint. It is incredibly formulaic, sure, but it's designed to produce highly engaging, world-class content. Which leaves us with this final thought for you to ponder. Why are rigid structural blueprints the secret to effective digital education? Perhaps it's because when the structure is locked in tight and when the rules are perfectly clear, it removes the friction of how to teach. That allows the educator to focus entirely on the clarity and the impact of what they are teaching. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this deep dive into content architecture helps you focus your own learning journey.